Hey guys, today we are talking about one of the Beatitudes, meekness. It's been brought up a couple times in different avenues of my life, and so I just wanted to touch on it a little bit today as it has to do with being relational, being meek as a beatitude, and being relational. So we find the Beatitudes in Matthew 5:5, and so, or just Matthew 5. But meekness is 5:5, and so this is what it says. It says, Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." And so when I initially think of meek, I think of weak, not necessarily because it rhymes, but meek, like you. When's the last time, I guess, in an English phrase that we used meek, like oh, you're so meek? It's never, it's actually never probably used like that, because that would be an an insult or something like that. But meekness literally means gentle, humble, considerate, and courteous. Those are all four really good descriptors that you wouldn't kind of associate with a word meek, and kind of what we have thought about being meek as being weak. So meekness, and so the ways that I heard it used this last week was actually at a memorial service, and one of my good friends described meek as knowing when to unsheath your sword. Very, very cool descriptor of how that word, I think, is used in Scripture, and how we need to think about that word today. I think it's used in Matthew 11:29 when we're talking about having Jesus. He says, "Take my yoke upon me, for my burden, for I am gentle and humble, and my burden is easy." I just slaughtered that one. Um, I should probably just read that one. But the same word there used when he talks about being gentle. And so meekness, it's also the main descriptor when you talk about, like, the word meek is also like a tamed horse. And so when you think of a tamed horse, you think of a very muscular animal that is big, that has the power to kill, trample, buck you off, ram you. But a tame horse can be used for good. So I think it's important to define meekness as a quality that we should seek after, not just because it's a beatitude, but because we want to be gentle. We should. We want to be courteous. We should. Humble, yes. Considerate, yes. And so when we talk about that in the relational sense, is how are we being meek when we're in relationships with people? Are we able to let other people break down barriers in our life that might be a stumbling block for ourselves? And are we willing for other people to say, "Hey, like, what you're doing right now is not okay"? And are we able to accept that? And then are we able to speak up when those things are occurring to us or to our family or to a situation where silence is not an option anymore, but we have to speak up? So how are we guiding our words to build people up, and how are we guiding our words in a way that demands listening to and respect? I played golf this morning with a gentleman. This is the second time that I got to play with him. And he's a retired gentleman, and he doesn't say that much, but when he does, you listen. And the dude outdrives me. I don't know how old he is, but he's a lot older than me, and the dude outdrives me on the golf course. He is a horse, and he has an extremely bad knee, and the dude is just a solid quality dude. But when he opens his mouth and talks to you, you know it's going to be good, because it's gentle, it's courteous, it's kind. But he also is willing to say, "Hey, why are you doing that way?" And I've learned a lot from him in 2 weeks that I've been golfing with him, because he's meek, and that's not a bad thing. And so I would encourage us all, how are we being meek in our relationships? How are we being meek with our life? Can we point out the flaws of others in a way that's upbuilding? I know that I don't do that always very well. Are we able to accept some of those things in our life and let down our guard and say, "You know what, I may not know everything right now, and so I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to learn"? Learning is great. Being meek is wonderful. And so whether that's knowing when to unsheathe your sword, whether that is the quality that we may have as a horse and being tamed versus wild. How are we taming that? How are we living our life in a way that's going to build the gospel by us being meek? So, hope you guys are having a good one. A lot of amazing things happening here on Westwoods TV. A lot of cool things happening in the next month for Westwoods. So, stay tuned to all those things. We'll talk to you later.